What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of The Brutalist, the new epic historical drama film from Brady Corbet, co-written by Corbett and Mana. Fast forward, this film is being released in the US by A24 in a few months' time. It's going to begin a very slow, limited rollout at the end of December. Really will probably be in front of most people in January sometime. So I was lucky enough to see this film early at the Independent Film Festival of Boston earlier this week, where I got to see the film in all its intended glory in 70 millimeter at the Somerville Theater, a venue that projects and shows film year round. And of course, 70 millimeter as a film format has become a bit more talked about and mainstream lately due to efforts from big directors like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, but Brady Corbet made The Brutalist independently. A24 did not get involved after this film debuted at Venice earlier this year. And Corbett, to his credit, really struck out in a way to use a traditional film format in an independent filmmaking way. He took that to the next level by shooting The Brutalist in VistaVision, of course, a film format from, the 1950s when The Brutalist, the film, is taking place. As a result, The Brutalist becomes the first American movie since Marlon Brando's One-Eyed Jacks in 1961 to be shot entirely in VistaVision, just a big flex. And of course, this film is 215 minutes, aka 3.5 hours long, so this is reportedly 300 pounds of film stock, 26 film reels. It's a big undertaking. And what was cool about the experience of this movie, too, is it has a baked-in 15-minute intermission, baked in the sense that it's part of the film reel. Like, the movie doesn't get paused or anything. The movie keeps playing, and then a timed 15-minute intermission kicks off, and the movie picks back up from there, kicking off its second act structure, before and after, so to speak. Of course, there's been a lot of hype and anticipation and buzz about The Brutalist ever since that Venice premiere. Of course, Brady Corbet, this is his third film. I had seen his last film, Vox Lux, in 2018, a divisive film, a film I enjoyed when I saw it. I haven't revisited it, but The Brutalist, talked about an epic scale compared to films like There Will Be Blood, high praise for sure. And, A24 getting involved, it's by all accounts going to be a major player in the Oscar race and in the mix for Best Picture. So after all that hype and anticipation and the fanfare about how the movie was actually made, I'm happy to say that A24 and Brady Corbett's The Brutalist is a epic masterpiece. The scale of this movie is so grand, and it's made in such an impressive way that it's really hard not to just be incredibly impressed with the whole undertaking. Famously shot on VistaVision, there are shots in landscape and, cinematography choices that really pop and incredibly gorgeous, in that 70 millimeter grain. And the film truly is epic. You have Adrien Brody's Laszlo Toth character, this Hungarian Jewish Holocaust survivor who emigrates to the United States and tries to pick his life back up together as a formerly very successful and renowned architect. And Toth's struggle to, keep his life together and then achieve a grand vision once he is brought onto this massive, once-in-a-lifetime mission really propels the movie. I think Brody's performance is excellent. The wealthy industrialist who hires him is played by Guy Pearce. Incredibly charismatic performance. I think if there's a fault to The Brutalist, it's largely in its second half, where Felicity Jones, I think, struggles with the material, playing a thin character, namely Toth's wife, who eventually follows him to America. But overall, I just couldn't help but be incredibly impressed by what the film accomplishes, what the film puts on screen, and just the, again, grand scale of, the journey of the storytelling. I think Brody's performance is very good, very nervy. It's kind of invoking what he did with The Pianist, of course, an Oscar-winning role. He's certainly contending once again for Best Actor, and he lays on the Eastern European accent quite thick. It's a big aspect of his character and what his character is able to achieve and whatnot in the film. And I think at times it almost makes certain dialogue moments hard to understand what he's saying because you can't rewind or anything, right? Like watching it live in the moment, on film. So I thought it was pretty effective in terms of the immigrant experience being communicated. I mentioned Guy Pearce. He plays Harrison Lee Van Buren, this wealthy industrialist who hires Brody to make this grand, epic, city on a hill vision. A chapel, a church, a gymnasium, a library, a civic center, all in one. And Brody's Toth's grand artistic designs are gonna be put it forward. And like, I think that the scale of that project, and once you see it start to begin, there's this epic scene where you watch them climb up a hill of where it's going to be built. It looks gorgeous. And once things start cooking, and then of course inevitably once things start to go wrong, all of that like snowballs and blossoms in a beautiful way depending on where you are with the storytelling. And I think the Pierce character, it's a great approximation of like how immigrants can be preyed upon by people with more means and whatnot. A big part of this, as well as Van Buren's son, Harry Lee Van Buren, played by Joel Alwyn, who I think is really great in the movie as this kind of pompous and entitled, wealthy, son of a rich guy. Is there maybe some like obviousness to the takeaway and the conclusion of some storylines in the second half, which I won't spoil, namely like a confrontation between Toth and the older Van Buren? Yeah, you could say that. Like the conclusion's like pretty overt and like really clear and maybe not that deep. But to me, like I think the overall conclusion, like there's this great like search at night through the institute, the big project that eventually gets made in certain aspects. Like I think it largely wraps up okay, even if there are some moments that I think maybe don't land with quite as much emphasis. Again, a lot of that unfortunately is laid at the feet of Felicity Jones's thin character, Toth's wife. There's an epic shot early on in the film when Toth gets out up from steerage on his boat where he's crossing the Atlantic, and he looks up and he spies the Statue of Liberty as they're coming into Ellis Island, and you see it upside down. It's just absolutely gorgeous shot, gorgeous filmmaking, and perhaps a sign of things to come in the story. There's also a really beautiful train crash scene that you watch from like a top down, almost like in slow motion, view from the sky. I think really effective. In general, I think the score really sweeps and builds and blossoms at time. And yeah, I mean, I think like maybe it's repetitive and redundant, but like epic scale is really like the name of the game with the Brutalist. And like you don't see movies like this at all. And the fact that Brady Corbet was able to film this on the format he wanted, keeping the budget in check. Apparently, the using VistaVision was like 1% of the budget. Whether that's true or not, like clearly they were very intentional and tactical in how they made this movie. And like it just really shows like the movie to me looks way more expensive than its reported low budget. Like it's an incredibly impressive feat all around. And I think even if maybe it doesn't completely come together for some people, I think there's just so much incredibly impeccable craft with what's going on. And of course, the writing is strong, the acting is universally strong for the most part. That for me, it's really hard not to celebrate the movie. And I think at this point, it's my favorite movie of the year. Of course, there's a handful of movies still I have yet to see, so we'll see if that holds. But right now, The Brutalist for me is in pole position as the best thing I've seen this year. It's a movie I really can't wait to talk about with more people. Again, it's only just beginning to slowly get in front of people in the lead up to its slow release. So we're a ways out from the Brutalist conversations in earnest. But yeah, let me know, what did you think of The Brutalist? What was your favorite aspect about it? A lot to chew on with the film. What do you think of its Oscar chances? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.